Let's get a perspective from Sarabjit Nangra of Angel Broking. Morning, Sarabjit. Thank you for joining us on the show. Just your impressions of the company, the IPO that's come in. What are you making of it?
See, IPO in terms of business profile and in terms of its opportunity, definitely it's promising given that the company is into a segment wherein the competition is lesser. But if you look at the industry dynamics, globally, three players itself account for almost 75 to 80% of the market share in the industry. So that leaves a lot of headroom for companies, Indian companies, to get into the business. But the entry barriers are also significantly higher for these companies to become the next leg in because the R&D investments are lower in comparison to the international peers. So growth-wise, internationally, this industry is growing at 6 to 7%, and Indian and advanced enzyme is growing higher because of its low base and also because the market share of this company globally is very low as of now. So globally, it's among the top 15 with a market share of 1%, and in India, it's the second largest after Novo Enzymes. So I guess well positioned in the market, growth opportunity is there, and because of the entry barriers being higher, the margins and the profitability profile is pretty good. The only negative that the company has is it's a very marginal player in the industry as of now. Second is it's a technology-based industry, which is where I believe as a analyst in pharma industry that the rules and regulations are not that tight as they should be. So it poses a lot of risk in terms of product approval and scalability. We have seen that in this company when a product had to be removed from the market in the last, it affected its number in FY13 and 14. So it can actually, given the size, it has a material impact on the numbers. So the only negative is that, in terms of its R&D, the promoters, the key professionals are the ones who are into, managing the R&D setup. So they are dependent on few resources as of now to scale up the business. That's the only negative point. And in terms of profit, five products account for almost 40% of its revenue. So there's a lot of product concentration and risk associated are also equally very high, even in spite of the opportunities available. And if you look at the valuation the company is demanding is roughly 25 times FY15 numbers. So given the ROE and given the long gestation this industry takes, because according to even the management, they take 5 years for the plant to build up and next 10 years to scale up to 100% capacity. So even though the profitability will be higher, even though entry barriers are higher, so obviously growth is also decent, but the valuation that they're demanding and given the risk that is there and the long gestation that is there, I believe that, the issue is fairly priced. So as of now, we have actually a neutral rating, which means that the issue doesn't leave much on the table for me to, buy into it. So we're neutral given the risk and the return profile of the company.
Good morning, Sarabjit. So as you're saying that you do maintain a neutral right now in terms of where this IPO is concerned. So in terms of the positives that this counter stands so far, do you think all of the positives are already priced in terms of, fully discounted in terms of the positives?
That's what I said. I mean, the positives are there. And risks are equally there when the size of the company is pretty small. The negative thing about the company is that it's pretty small size company. It's hardly 50 crores company. And given the risk and it deals with technology and the way we see in pharma, if regulations go haywire, then the negative implications are also pretty high. So I need a comfort in terms of valuation. So I guess it's fairly priced. I'm not saying it's a bad issue, but it's fairly priced. So I believe there is very little, room for the investors. So we are given the risk of its product concentration, of its risk profile, we have maintained a neutral stance.
Sarabjit, in the listed universe, which companies would you say are its peers or possibly close peers to an advanced enzyme?
See, currently Biocon is there in terms of relatively lesser presence in enzymes. It's more into biotechnology. This is also biotechnology, but if I look at product-wise, they are into formulation and other things. These are just enzymes. So I can't compare Biocon to this because Biocon has very small part coming from enzymes. So I believe that there is no comparison fair. That's why in India they are the second, and globally also they are amongst top 15. So most of the competition that they have is MNC, multinational competition actually.
And
yeah.
Okay, and Sarabjit, in terms of where risks are concerned, as I read in terms of the DRHP, they have a lot of dependence in terms of their foreign subsidiaries which are located in North America, and additionally in terms of their products also, their sales is mainly dependent on key 5 product groups. How big a risk is this in terms of where business is concerned going ahead, which investors need to look at?
That's what I said. That's a bigger risk actually. Even if I mean, being an analyst, I can't ignore the opportunity. But given the size and given the risk, I think the risks are heavier on the company because, as I said, in FY 13 and 14, even though the company is sitting on a larger capacity, they had to take a toll on their numbers because one of their products were found faulty in the market. So that impacted their top line and bottom line also significantly. So given that they're dependent on 5 products, whereas globally people who are selling are not so much dependent on particular product, I guess it's a risk which is lying on the company, and it's not a huge scale company as of now. So that risk for a small company becomes too heavier to be, de-risked. I mean, so to that extent, that risk could play out either which way. So that's a difficult call to take, but as of now, valuations also are what they have demanded is pretty fair. So I don't see much of a room in this IPO for investors.
All right, Sarabjit, moving away from the primary market, one thing I want to know in terms of where the sector is concerned, a new drug in terms of where Zegerid is concerned, we did have which is a combination treated for stomach as well as esophagus problems. Now, what's the kind of market opportunity do we see in terms of this drug for Ajanta Pharma as well as Dr. Reddy's? Because that's the new one which is in the offering, and we have Dr. Reddy's which has already launched it.
See, I need to go into the specifics. For Ajanta Pharma, I have no clue what upsides it will because I don't track Ajanta Pharma. But for this drug, I need to go into details of it to give you a precise answer.
All right. And in terms of where Kour is concerned, Aurobindo has already got the approval. AstraZeneca has lost the petition with the US court. So, what's your outlook in terms of that as well?
For companies like Aurobindo or companies like Dr. Reddy, these are small drugs. So actually, these are not very big drugs, given the size of the company, but definitely for Aurobindo, this drug could be a decent grossing drug, given that the size of the drug is pretty huge, and Aurobindo is available for 180-day exclusivity. So, roughly back of the hand calculation, I think easily company can do $200 to $300 million kind of a business given the exclusivity.
Right, Sarabjit, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining us. So that's Sarabjit's view. Neutral call on an advanced enzyme IPO over there. Valuations are at fair level, possibly a little too rich. Also highlighting some of the key risks for the IPO. We'll slip into a short break, get you the management of Prabhat Dairy on the other side. But as we do so, here are the management of advanced enzyme on the growth triggers for the company going forward.
Top